Hello, friends. My name is Puesto Enrico, and together with my identical twin brother, host Eric, I comprise the hosting staff of Talking with Famous People, primary hosting staff thereof. Today I'm talking about jiggling undercarriages and their relationship to FI. So it occurs to me that possibly a good FI test would be to check how much a person's undercarriage jiggles. Hi, JL. Does that stand for jiggling loose? I'm jiggling loose. Once upon a time, I learned how to jiggle. Everything's been good since then. Once upon a time, I learned how to jiggle, and everything's been fine now. So today we're talking about Saturdays, about afternoons. It's really still morning. I want to share something with everybody that's pretty important as well. I got to the end of my inbox in Gmail. I no longer have thousands of unread emails. I now have like 10 that are actually emails I need to deal with. That's pretty good. That's pretty impressive. I feel pretty good about myself this morning for having accomplished that. It's like, damn, Eric, you the shit. It's kind of like that anyway, a little bit. I'm coming up on a sleepy week pretty soon. So I'll probably be reduced somewhat in my productivity for a stretch. Kind of burned through this bottle of Addy. Not really, I guess. It's about 2 weeks. It's about normal, really. What's the date today? 11th. Thanks. I appreciate it. I was very productive this bottle of Addy, so I don't really have a great deal of regret about. No, those books aren't for reading. Those books are just to make me look smart. Okay. No, it's not Sleepy Week yet. It'll be Sleepy Week probably starting Monday, I would say, is the beginning of Sleepy Week. These books here, for example, critically important books. There's no disputing that. But okay, well, I'm not going to lie. These books are where I got all of my medical knowledge from. Okay. Everything I know about medicine, I learned from Medical and Health Encyclopedia Illustrated. Okay. So that's why I know these are feet. Those are feet. Yes, it's a disease. It is. And it causes your undercarriage to jiggle. If you don't want your undercarriage to jiggle, stop feeling things. Okay. These are called children. I learned that in this book. Those people are called chefs or something. I don't know why they're in this book, but they are. Let's see what else we got in the book. Something exciting. This will tell you how far away average speech can be heard. See that? This is good. This will prevent you from being accidentally overheard if you keep careful care and track of this chart here. Let's see what else is in this book. Okay. So as early as 1950, whatever year this book was made in, they had already mastered the art of levitation. The thing is, you got to put those little doodads on the guy's chest if you want him to levitate like that. Okay. Oh, look at this. This is how to exercise. How useful. This little chart right here. First you stand up, then you squat down, then you touch the ground, and you go like that. You stand up, then you lie down and lift your legs up in the air like that. You put your arms out, you put your head down, you stand up, put your arms out and down, and then you go meow, and then you push down, and then you go meowity meow. That's how you exercise. Here's another great exercise you can do. You start like that, and then you go like that. Well, total transformation, my first answer to that question of what's wrong with him is he's active in WhatsApp groups. So that's part of the problem. But beyond that, yeah, he's an FI user. That is the secret to how I maintain my great figure. I look at those little diagrams. They show me how to exercise. Yeah, Becky's gonna make her first video on her channel coming up pretty soon. It's gonna be a video of her chasing Sasquatches in the forests of Saskatchewan. Her channel is going to be all about Sasquatch hunting. I was surprised to learn that. I thought maybe she was going to talk about personality or psychology or something like that. No, it's all about Sasquatch hunting. I said, Becky, when's the last time you even caught a Sasquatch? She says, 3 weeks ago. That wasn't a Sasquatch. It was a pine cone. You showed it to me. So if you don't text your friends back, FI user, I often don't text my friends back, but it's not because I'm mad at them or something. It's just because I'm completely irresponsible. You have a pet Sasquatch. That's not a Sasquatch. It's a squash. Becky, I told you that. A squash is not a Sasquatch, okay? A squash is like a pumpkin, but more squashy. No, he's calling you his quash because you're always quashing motions in court. That's what you're mishearing him entirely, Becky. So, I wanted to share an additional answer to the tuna casserole coffee maker that the INTP provided. That I was rewatching that video this morning. In addition to providing best smells of the kitchen, he also came up with the George Foreman breakfast and dinner machine, which I thought was pretty funny as well. So, I like the idea of coming up with some more possible tunacinomatic, tunachinio. I can't say that word. I was talking to Right Ruminations last night about types. I offered to reciprocate since he came to debate me about race, about type on his channel, and I asked him to come. He was trying to tell me he's an INTP. He's not an INTP. He's got no fucking way. I asked him to come up with a name for a combo product that was a bamboo screen that folded like a transformer into and back into an ironing board and back into a bamboo screen. Okay. So if anybody can think of any names for that, the one I came up with, he didn't come up with anything good, but bamboozle Foltatron is pretty great. I came up with Bambironing board, which I thought was pretty good. Bambironing board. Yeah. But Bamboozle Foldatron is a much better name for an actual product, right? In fact, I forget about this product. I could name just about any product Bamboozle Foldatron and be pretty satisfied with that. You know, that's a good one, Becky. Foldatron is a great word. I'm going to have to include Foldatron and things that fold. Sheila, hello. Do you know that Becky and I are going to open a new corporation in which we take existing items and make them Foldatronic? Foldatronic items is the next big rage. Well, you have a regular bag of chips? Well, mine's Foldatronic. I think he's an INTJ. I'm almost 100% sure on him. Because he's so SI. Oh, I mean, he's so NI. It's crazy. He's all into like numerology and shit like that. The great, and this one particular religious text, and I Googled it after I talked to him. He mentioned it. It's called the Cloud of Knowing. And so I looked into what the ideas in the Cloud of Unknowing were. I looked it up on Wikipedia, and it's all NI stuff. It's like when you first begin this work, you find only darkness, as if it were a cloud of unknowing. Reconcile yourself to wait in the darkness as long as it's necessary, but still go on longing after him whom you love. For if you are to feel him or see him in the life, it must always be in this cloud, in this darkness. And then, thank you, darling. He can be well loved, but he cannot be thought. By love, he can be grasped and held, but by thought, neither grasped nor held. And therefore, though it may be good at times to think specifically of the kindness and excellence of God, and though this may be a light and part of contemplation, all the same, in the work of contemplation itself, it must be cast down and colored with a cloud of forgetting, and you must step above it stoutly but deftly, with a devout and delightful stirring of love and struggle to pierce the darkness above you and beat on that thick cloud of unknowing with the sharp dart of longing love, and do not give up whatever happens. Thank you, darling. And then, so, I mean, the thing is, and then like this one, chapter 30, 39 and 40. There's a lot of background noise. When we intend to pray for goodness, let all our thought and desire be contained in the one small word, God, nothing else, and no other words are needed, for God is the epitome of all goodness, blah, blah, blah. Do not consider any particular virtue which God may teach you through grace, whether it is humility, charity, patience, abstinence, hope, faith, moderation, chastity, or evangelical poverty, for to a contemplative they are in a sense all the same. Let this little word represent to you God in all his fullness, nothing less than the fullness of God. So, like, this is the book that he says is like super influential on him, right? That's an NI. That's totally NI shit. It's all NI. So, okay, let's see. Chip clips no more. Well, we need Foldatronic chip clips. Is there a cure for FI? Yes, there is. It is sausage biscuit. McDonald's sausage biscuit cures FI. His video titles are very NI. I haven't looked at his channel really at all, but I think there's something important to be done there in that regard. Like, the solution to idiotic discourse is not to push it off into the corners where it's not allowed to exist. That will never be the solution. And it's absolutely the case that the idea that we should cite immigration law on race is just pure idiocy.
Idiocracy.
But the point of it is...
What did you call it? Idiocy?
Yeah.
It's idiocracy.
No, that's... Idiocracy is the name of a movie.
Oh. I don't think idiocy is a word.
Give me that's a sentence you want to not say.
Why?
Well, it doesn't make you look good.
Well, I'm not talking about the situation. I'm just saying that the word is not good.
I know, baby, but I'm saying.
Oh, sorry.
No, nothing to apologize for. I'm just saying that's the sort of sentence that people laugh at when you go, I don't think idiocy is a word.
Oh.
It's kind of like what that chick, that famous chick who's famous for kind of being dumb when she said, look, I'm no rock scientist.
Well, Eric.
It's fine,
That's something
Kimmy.
I would say.
I know. I like your malapropisms.
So ISFJs are the dingy brunettes. I don't know.
You're not dingy, but look, the thing is, remember that chick, Jessica Simpson, who's talked about chicken to the sea being surprised that it was chicken?
Oh.
It was that sort of statement, kind of.
So I just made myself look really stupid in front of
8 people, 13 people.
Senjin, Music, Hambone. Oh my God, all of them. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm devastated.
Foldatronic ecstasy pills. They various folds increase the potency of the methamphetamine, cocaine, MDMA, whatever is folded at the top. I like the idea of folding your drugs together into a single drug.
Well, Planet Catcher thinks I'm adorable. I think she's even more adorable than me.
Well, I think you're adorable too, Kimberly. I'm not disagreeing with Planet Ketchup there. Eric, are you into hentai? Is hentai Japanese anime porn? I mean, I'm not into it. If I'm gonna watch porn, I'll watch live action porn with actual people in it usually. But I like it in theory. Like, I mean, I've watched it before.
Daddy, I'm sorry. I put mayonnaise on your sandwich. I'm so sorry.
Kimberly, we're live streaming. Kimberly, you're so silly.
That's actually the kind of porn he likes.
I'm flagging this. Doug Ovick, don't flag it. Don't be a flag, okay? Oh my God, that's so flaggy of you. What the hell is going on? Says Clockwork Paradise. Well, Kimberly's playing mayonnaise sandwich putter on her. I have to pee really badly. I should have peed before I started this live stream. Kimberly, can you take over for a minute while I pee, please?
I don't know if I have enough makeup on.
You have plenty of makeup. Just sit here, entertain the people.
Okay. Do you want to eat your sandwich while you're on the pot?
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'll eat this one. It's better than the other one. I don't like this one because it's too dry.
Fine.
I mean, I don't dislike it. I'm just saying that kind of McDonald's sandwich is not my favorite because it's dry.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Yeah, you eat that one.
Hi, y'all. I know. I don't have any on. I actually look kind of greasy. I haven't had a shower. Hi. No, hair is not on point. Neither is the double chin. Okay. No. The meaning of life. Okay, well, the best way that I can say that the meaning of life, like to me, the meaning of life is, I guess, I don't know, getting it right. Like for me, it's getting it right. Yeah, cheese too. I feel like I came back onto, like, I feel like I was born into the earth to kind of redo past life woes. How long did it take to become a good hairdresser? It took a long time. It took a lot. It was all about confidence. Probably 10 years. I've been doing hair for 33. Is God a woman? No. I don't know what God is. I don't know. Wow, what? Is God a dog? No. Hello Kitty is bae, maybe God too. Yeah, I agree. Did I ever do? Yes, I did one hair disaster. It was early on in my career. I was working for a Fantastic Sam's, and it was the type of place where you work and just random people come in and out, and you're doing haircuts as quickly as you can, and then you don't really have any clients. They're just random people that come in. So this boy and his mom came in, and this boy was really pissed off at his mom that she wouldn't let him get the haircut that he wanted. And she was a total she was a mean mom. Anyway, so I went to go give him his haircut that she wanted. It was a 2 on the sides and a 4 on top, and he wanted a buzz or something or whatever. Well, I accidentally switched the guards and did the shorter on top, and then messed up, which meant that I gave him the haircut that he actually wanted. And the mom complained about me, and she was pissed off. Yeah, it was devastating for me, but the kid was happy. So I looked at it as a win-win. So that was my hair disaster. Yeah. I haven't really had any major disasters. I don't really take on clients that I know could possibly be a disaster. I work with color. I work with perms. I do all of that, but I just kind of stay away from the brides. If you trim my hair, you promise to just, yes, of course. I stay away from brides. I stay away from prom girls. I stay away from the drama. I don't want to get involved with somebody that is going to, be a hassle. I know what I'm doing. You sit in my chair, let me do my job, or else you're not going to be my client. I definitely listen to my clients, but you need to let me do my craft. I can see I'm boring the hell out of everyone. Yeah. Becky, we're going to have so much fun when you're here. I can't even stand it. Yeah, of course. No, yeah, I think you'll be really happy when I cut it. We're all good, Becky. You're like, you're in good hands. Eric, you better hurry. They don't like me. I use 30, 40, or 50, whatever you can handle. Get a helmet for the chicken. I know I saw a video. Oh, you saw it. Hi, Marty.
Who was sitting on the table in the living room?
Marty, looking for mommy.
Watch her for a wing. You're going to squish it.
No. This is Marty. This is the sweetest chicken ever. She's sweeter than Red, I have to say, people. Mm-hmm.
Kimberly's a very client-focused hair cutter. She's not going to ruin your hairs.
Mm-mm.
You can have me cut your hair, Becky.
No.
I'll do an excellent job of chopping it all off.
Are you my baby girl? Can you say hi to all the friends? Can you say hi to all the friends? Yeah, she's so sweet. Yeah, show him your sister. Get her sister, Eric.
Come here, Red. Oh, Red.
Oh, Red. There's Officer Red.
Officer Red.
Yeah. Here, kiss. Can you two kiss? Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, she does. She coos. Mm-hmm. You're so sweet, huh? Yeah. Okay, I think the people want your daddy back because I am just way too boring.
Here we go. Kimmy.
No, Maudie is not in the type police. She's gonna have to have her own videos.
Yeah, Maddie's
She's not as bitchy as Officer Red. Oh, look! I think
She's
she
not
likes
cut
this.
out for police work.
I think she likes this.
Okay.
Oh, look at that!
Okay.
It's like labia. I just said labia almost seems almost.
I agree, Becky. I think Maud does want to work with Raul Diego. Maud may be Raul's intuitive chicken student. I could put some paint and have her walk on things, perhaps.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah, she's too good to be a cop. She's too nice. She'd let everybody go.
Here, mommy, girl.
Becky needs a mohawk. Becky Needs a Mohawk is a good name for a band, I think. Becky Needs a Mohawk. Music, the chicken is not a hen, okay? We don't have male chickens, we have female chickens. They're also known as special ladies. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there's a large book of special ladies somewhere in Washington, D.C., for all of the ladies who are officially special ladies. And, there was a dog I had named Lacey, and I would always sing to her the following song. 'Cause you're a very, 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 very special lady. Yes, you're a very, 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 very special lady. Oh, yes, I've checked all the documentation I can find, and I've discovered you're a very special kind of lady. Oh, yes, you are. That's a song I would sing to my dog. I've also sung it to Kimberly on occasion.
Kimberly's like, that's a song for your dog.
She's like my dog. She's a special lady, too. So is Delilah. Delilah's a special lady. My chickens are special ladies. Very special ladies. Yes. And I've got a couple of male cats who are special gentlemen. Been there, but it was a Chelsea hawk. What's a Chelsea hawk? A particular kind of mohawk haircut involving either a ladies named Chelsea or the city of Chelsea. I have a grown out picture of it somewhere in the 6th grade. It has handlebars. House of Special Ladies, new season coming. FX question. I think I sometimes confuse TE and SE. Can you help explain the difference? It's difficult to distinguish between them because they kind of go hand in hand in the sense that TE is an interface function. So it doesn't. Contrary to a lot of people's understandings of it, it's not necessarily all about planning, right? It's about being responsive to the realities of the situation in front of you and the problem in front of you. And so the SE part often is it's in the middle there. You go, like, let's say you're talking about a problem like putting together a piece of furniture or something that you bought that it wasn't put together in the box. So then if that were the case, you'd imagine that the TE would go like this. All right. The first step I have to do seems to be let's say it didn't have any instructions, but you saw what it looked like put together on the picture. So you're trying to figure it out, right? So to try to figure it out, you go, okay, well, look, probably the best thing to do is to first put together the back of this because that's going to attach down there. It's like that. And so I'm going to put together the back first. And this looks like this piece. This looks like that piece. The actual TE of it, of making a decision about where to go first and what to do first, that's the TE part. Then you actually start to do it. You end up doing some trial and error things unavoidably. And so you're like, oh, actually, you know what? I don't think that piece does go there because of this other thing over here, yada, yada, yada. The TE and the SE go together in a project like that, but they take turns, right? You TE decide what to do, and then you SE do it. So, but in terms of understanding SE overall, it's best to remember that there's no action that's taken that some actions that are taken require no follow through beyond the immediate action. So smoking this bong rip though is not an example of one of those. Flipping a light switch might be, but even smoking this bong rip has some follow through to it. I've got to decide to smoke it, and then I've got to light it, and then if I want to smoke the whole bong rip, I got to smoke it again to finish it. Now, following through and cashing the bowl, that's good SE. Kimberly never follows through and cashes the bowl. I mean, Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo always leaves a half full bowl. Why? Ignoring SE. You might say, well, she just doesn't know how to smoke weed properly. It's a TE thing. It's true she's not doing the TE, but it doesn't require TE to understand whether a bowl has been cashed or not, So, okay. What do you think of people's results they commented on your NI test video? I think they're interesting. I mean, I don't think it's decisive or anything, but I continue to read them and let it percolate. I gotta let, to a certain extent, the NI settle for me. Like, I don't know what to conclude yet because I'm still in the data gathering part. I got something in my teeth here. Okay. Would investing in smart shower research be a good business strategy? Smart shower research. What's smart shower research? Is that intelligently putting water on you in some fashion? Mad Biscuit 23. Are you back with more about intelligence? How fun. Eric, I think I understand now. IQ test doesn't measure intelligence. Would you say it is correct to say it measures brain efficiency? Oh, okay. Bull. I fall into obvious traps like that all the time. Do you think it's easy for blind TE to go unnoticed? Most people don't talk about bad TE in the type community. I do think it's easy for it to go unnoticed, unless you're dealing with the person individually. It's like, how do you know Kimberly's TE polar? Well, I remember one time Jewel and Kimberly were hanging out here, and I went to back out the car, and they were both standing behind the car at the end of the driveway, oblivious to the fact that they knew I was taking the car out of the driveway, but it didn't occur to them that they probably shouldn't stand behind it because they're not thinking about the TE interface at all at that moment. They're interfacing FE with each other, both using their tool functions, comfortably going bliggity, bliggity, blah. So I leaned out the window and said, will the TE polar please get out of the driveway? And that's when you notice things like TE polar, or when you see somebody pick up something and go to carry it across the room, obliviously not moving other things out of the way first. Like, I'm going to move this chair across the room, but instead of being smart, I am not going to clear the path that I'm going to take first. That's an example of TE polar. Also, what's your definition of intelligence, in which you discriminated to FI and TI use? Because I think you said on the basis of deliberation, why don't you just call it deliberation? I mean, that's a fair question. The thing is, I don't have an operationalized definition of intelligence. I don't find it useful to have one. For what purpose do I want a definition of intelligence that's meaningful? Am I going to use it in some other mechanics of something? Am I going to cast judgment on somebody or something about with it, or what? Why is it important to you that I define intelligence? It's not part of a cognitive function model at all. So when I say, why do I call intelligence TI and FI? Because they both make life more intelligible in the sense that they are deliberative. They provide additional information regarding the status of something. The alternative to the deliberative process that makes things more intelligible is a knowing process in which things are already fully intelligible, or a creative process in which things are indeterminately intelligible. So that's why I can't relate people who are mentally impaired to cognitive functions meaningfully. I could do it, but I don't want to do it. Basically, the thing is, I've worked with lots of populations of retarded people before, and you could certainly describe their dysfunction in terms of cognitive functions if you wanted to, but that would be both reductive and probably wrong. In an attentional manner, one can imagine the capacity to engage in an essential manner being damaged by some other kind of brain malfunction, but it's hard to conceive of it as being specifically it's too thorny a question. I don't know what to do with it, really. So I'm just going to leave that question alone about mental impairment. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that deliberation functions are functions that make life more intelligible and thus are intelligent and intelligence. Can any polar be good at any after 40 some years of life having to think about possibilities? No. Can't be good at any more than I'm good at FE at 50. FI at 50. It's not a matter of good or bad at something. It's a matter of the ability to metabolize in that fashion. So it's like I still get, FE polar people still read other people's emotions. They just don't metabolize that information meaningfully. I still feel a lot of emotions. I just don't metabolize that information meaningfully. And same thing with all of the polars. Extroverted intuition, they metabolize the information, which is to say, they metabolize the elements that extroverted intuition could work with and on to be creative in some fashion, ideationally, but they don't know how to metabolize that. I mean, they just don't metabolize it. They don't metabolize it meaningfully. So that's why, no, you can't become good at your polar ever in any meaningful sense. I have an Asperger's student who seems to not be able to do FE or NE. Well, if you get somebody who's polar FE, they will display as Asperger's a lot, especially INTJs. I don't believe Asperger's is a real thing. Either the degree of difference from the norm is sufficient as to comprise a mental retardation of some sort, like a inability to cognate across normal range of things, and then it comprises autism. If it doesn't have that impact, it doesn't correspond with some kind of cognitive deficit or retardation or something, then as far as I'm concerned, it's not anything except just a configural matter. Just as ADHD, I think, is a configural matter, not anything else. You've got a disorder that can't be tested for in any kind of way that's falsifiable, and it's just a grouping of symptoms that you call something, and it's arbitrarily determined whether or not you have that based on the medical professional, quote unquote medical professional, who chooses to apply the standard of this grouping to you or not. Then that's not a real thing you're talking about. The INTPs you type T and C, what types did they think they were before going in? C thought he was an INTP, I suspect, but had gotten typed as other things by different people and was somewhat, I think, demoralized by not, as a consequence, not feeling able to be confident about it because of the general objectivity angle that INTPs take. So because you're super objective about everything, you don't want to commit internally to the idea that you're an INTP. If other sources are telling you otherwise, you're going to be objectively self-critical and say, there's a pattern here. Like the C said, after the first one typed me as INFP, I just thought, well, that's not right. But then another one typed me as ENFP or something like that, and I said, okay, well, there's a pattern here. I don't know what's going on. And I was like, well, there's a pattern of wrongness. You're clearly an INTP. Afterwards, I think he felt like NI had collapsed for him. Now, T was a much more interesting case because T came in as a display trap. He displayed in a lot of ways like an ENTJ. Very successful, does CrossFit. It has himself in a situation where he's SEing a fair amount and talks a lot in ways that sound like TE, in the sense that his job is kind of TE-ish. He does TE stuff or whatever. But when you do cognitive function analysis on him, it's clear as day he's an INTP. Now, this display reality had thrown everybody prior to me off entirely, and it didn't even occur to me to look at his display. So I was never thinking about, I never even thought for a second he might be anything but an INTP. Right off the bat. Interesting guy. Well, I asked permission to excerpt the best smells of the kitchen part, because that whole section is interesting and revelatory, because it begins with his wife saying, well, how then do we know he's not an ISTP? Because she was listening in, and she typed that into chat. And so I said, well, let's give these couple of NE tests. And I give him a couple of NE tests, and then there's that section where, the first of which is about how to get something from the bottom of the ocean, then the tuna casserole coffee maker question. And by the end of it, I think it's pretty goddamn obvious how tool function NE responds versus something else. When I ask an equivalent question to right ruminations, there was not one shred of that NE. And his explanation as to how he's open to possibilities, and that's why he's NE, is such a frame respect for NE, which he has because he's an NI dom. I remember you claiming in an earlier video that INTPs are more dewy than INFPs despite the shared blind spot. Could you elaborate on that? Yeah, I think it's because TI is determinate in its conclusions and FI is indeterminate. So even though it just makes INFPs the least dewy of all types, because they've got their introverted feeling, which is always jiggling their undercarriages. So if your undercarriage is continually jiggling, it makes it difficult for you to have a stable launching off point to do stuff. Now, INTP's undercarriages are largely still. They only jiggle in service of their stabilizing TI. So with a stable undercarriage, the TI either will come to firm conclusions about things at least some of the time, and that will tend to segue into some sort of extroverted sensing, because once something's been firmly decided, the only thing left to do is extroverted sensing, the carrying out of that. Like, it's interesting, at the end of that T video, I asked him a question about which would he prefer to get out of this typing hypothetically, if he could only get one. A very clear articulation of all the mechanics of things, or a very clear, definitive answer regarding his type, but not have all the mechanics of why it is that way explained. First one, you get no definitive type, but you get all the mechanics explained. Second one, you get a definitive type, but you don't get all the mechanics explained. So what I would say about that is I would have expected him to say he'd want all the mechanics as an INTP. Instead, what I got was him going back and forth with his extroverted intuition, articulating the pros and cons of both sides. So I thought that was revealing as well. It shows you that sometimes, number one, that my expectations are wrong, and number two, that sometimes they can be wrong in ways that are even more revealing than the right, what I thought was going to be the revealing rightness, you know? Because I do think that's more revealing. The fact that he uses extroverted intuition tool function when he's able to in a non-work setting, and when he's talking about himself, or we're talking about something abstract like that, he's going to take a long time to get to that conclusion, because he's going to keep going, well, there's this possibility, that possibility, man. Matthew's late. Matthew, you are late. Did you get a note from the office, or you think you're just going to come straight in here? Mr. Mime, hey, Eric, did the TI polar test Lucy football with one of my clients. Her response was, I think Lucy's parents are divorced. Pretty sure she's ESFP now. There you go. That's a totally ESFP answer right there. I think you used the tool correctly to make your diagnosis there. T needs to let you upload his typing. Yeah, I would hope he does. That'd be cool. Would you say cognitive functions only have descriptive power, not explanatory power? And where does that explanatory power draw from? Okay, well, the second half of that question doesn't follow from the first. Would I say cognitive functions only have descriptive power, not explanatory power? No, I wouldn't say that. And then where does that explanatory power draw from? The relational mechanics. The fact that things have relationships that are not simply independent. They're dependent relationships, right? So the more
my phone died.
Your phone died? Okay. Well, you should plug it in.
I did.
So for example, if we're talking about independent trials, then if I go like if I have two decks of cards and I pull an ace off the first deck of cards, then it tells me nothing at all about what I'm going to do with the second deck of cards. It does tell me that there's a lower chance I'm going to pull an ace again from the same deck of cards. However, I'm talking about different decks of cards, then I learn nothing from pulling the ace from the first deck of cards about what I'm going to pull from the second deck of cards. So understanding that distinction there between independent and dependent trials is important, and also understanding dependent and independent relationships. So a dependent relationship is something like proportionality, inverse proportionality, and an independent relationship is like the two decks of cards. Okay, so I'd be like 50-50, maybe mechanics. That's a close one about preferring the mechanics or the type conclusion. I mean, the thing is, it's not so much what answer you pick, it's how much mulling back and forth, how many back and forths you go. So I guess that's probably a good question just because it's very close. Eric, IDK about that really being indicative of INTP over INTJ based off of mechanics or wanting a hole dumped upon you because an INTJ must trust their own ability to come to that hole, but wants the busy work mechanics solved. You don't think what's indicative of being an INTP? Oh, not being able to decide that? Well, I mean, the thing that was indicative is the expression of NE as he's going back and forth and detailing all the possible reasons to prefer one or the other, and then breaking each of those down out loud for me. That's a clear indication he's using NE as a tool function. There's not any disputing that. And the way that the INTJ thought, paused, and then gave a specific direct answer that is inconsistent with INTP is what I'm saying. Eric, I think you view FI as a lot more turbulent and unstable than actually is, perhaps because of your blind spot. Yes, that's quite possible. I do not claim to and acknowledge that I do not understand FI very well. I assume it's all mushy because it's not, you can't pin it down with words, but that doesn't mean that it's mushy within the FI user. And I just don't understand how you guys metabolize that information. That's what it boils down to. And it probably never will. And her mother is away for work this weekend. Good news, she doesn't hurt herself. What can you conclude? Yeah, what can you conclude? She loves soccer? In order for it to be valid, it wouldn't have to be expressed 100% of the time? I don't understand what you mean. I mean, in order to be definitive as a test, for example, the skills test, where you show a skills deficit, can be definitive in that fashion, where if somebody's SI polar, they're going to test SI polar every time, and it's going to be repeatable, falsifiable, testable in that fashion. So, you can have shit tons of people run the same experiment across things and have it play out. Like, well, for example, just as Mr. Mime pointed out about the football question or the soccer question. Mr. Mime must not be from America. It's a soccer question. But anyway, the point is that you can consistently get that same result in a way that is much more definitive, for example, right? If you're asking me, do we have tests that work like that for each of the functions? No. And is it the case that if I were to ask that same question of a bunch of INTPs and a bunch of INTJs, they would all answer identically to each other? Well, not quite, but I think if I were to do that sort of the testing and data collection, that we'd see that the similarities were striking and the pools were very clear and there would be very clear barriers or boundaries between them. So, no, it doesn't have to be 100% because there will always be particularist elements. And the system accounts for that and it acknowledges that there are going to be particularist elements. It's why INFPs have the widest range of display. It's because they have the most particularist understanding of self. FI, SI are both particularists. So, and TE as well. Okay. Definition didn't think right ruminations was INTP, but I could see how he would have been nervous with the NE thing. But he seemed like he was trying to find the right answer rather than creating. Yeah, he's not an INTP, not in a million years. You say ENTPs, ENFPs are the most. No, ENTPs and INFJs are the most metaphysical. Those are the two most metaphysical types. INFPs are not metaphysical. INFPs are among the most physical types, although they have extroverted intuition second. That's the only thing that's metaphysical about them at all. So the thing is, the metaphysical functions are NE, NI, TI, and FE. So I go metaphysical, 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 physical, SI being physical. And INFJs go metaphysical, 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 physical, SE being physical. So it is the case, however, I will say that there's another argument that you could make in terms of displaying in terms of metaphysicality. You could say ENFJ is the most metaphysical because they have the least sense of particular self, even though their physical function, SE, is one higher up in the stack than ENTPs and INFJs. INTPs, similarly, you could say, well, they're actually more metaphysical than ENTPs for the other reason. They don't have polar SI, they have polar SE, which means they don't have any physicality in the doing world. But the thing is, so too, I have polar FI, which means I don't have any weighing in the physical world. INFJ has polar TE, which means they don't have any solvency in the physical world. So everybody's got that polar physicality if you're in that metaphysical group. So it's the same really either way. The reason is, it's just you go in the order. The reason I say INFJs are more metaphysical than ENTPs is because I think the epistemology function, NI, is more metaphysical function. I mean, it has more impact on metaphysicality, physicality than does the action function. That NE and SE both extrovert into the external world. And so there's a certain physicality to extroverted intuition that the introverted intuition lacks. And so ultimately INFJ is more metaphysical than ENTP if you wanted to compare them like that. And you can't really necessarily say that you're not measuring it in units, right? Well, they have 12 units of metaphysicality and they only have 11 or something. You can count, you can make numbers like that for things, like I did, but there are no units to it. You may test to determine TI polar. Would it be possible to test the strength of TI, whether it is bad or not blind, but just okay, it's really strong? Well, yeah, I think it is possible to do that, and I find that it's easy to tell when I've got an ego block or a top block TI user. When I get real INTPs and I start asking those TI conditionality questions, they follow along no problem, and they're maybe a step ahead of me, and so there's no need to repeat things unless they didn't hear something or whatever. Or sometimes they're not paying attention midway or whatever. But when they make the TI answer, they not only give you the TI answer, but they give you sort of a TI analysis of it. Like, this is assuming blah, 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 and this is the answer. Assuming some other possible shit that you didn't say that could be used to trick me isn't the case, then this is the answer. That's a TI dumb on a complicated problem, right? So it's pretty easy to tell, but the thing is, unlike a polar test, I can't really standardize it in the same way. It's a lot easier to say, you are missing this sense, you're blind, than it is to say, you've got better eyesight than he does, right? Are you blind or can you see is a lot easier question to answer than which of you has better eyesight and you both have good eyesight. Or, let's see. Then if there isn't a 100% input-output, then I don't see how it could be stapled as the correct tool to explain intentional matter. Well, if that's the case, Mad Biscuit, then you don't see how anything can have complex causalities beyond just direct. So you don't understand how cars move. And you don't understand how people walk. And you don't understand anything. Because, of course, you cannot always find a single definitive tool to definitively determine everything. Sometimes you have to do some interpretive work of the results. Now, for most things in life that have a holistic element to them at all, there's a sense that you have to be able to recognize the pattern. Not everything has to be, you have to prove the pattern. A lot of things you recognize the pattern, right? So if I've got, and in a lot of ways you can deduce things. So I have some tests that are definitive. Keep in mind, Mad Biscuit, that my approach to cognitive functions is vastly more definitive than anybody else's by a long measure. Okay, so compare against the alternatives, not against the ideal. And remember as well, I'm actively working towards finding things that are more definitive about slots for other things. So can I use it as a tool to type people? Absolutely. Will I use it effectively to type them correctly? Absolutely. Can I state that it's a falsifiable, repeatable tool that it ought to be tested by everybody because everybody's going to use it the same way in the test and it's going to show the same thing every time? No. Does that make it worthless for somebody who has actual knowledge of how to use tools and understands the mechanics of the thing, like myself? No, it does not make it useless at all. It makes it extremely useful for me, but probably not for you. Okay. So, wouldn't his actual physical display of SE be? I mean, why? Just because he does CrossFit, that doesn't mean he's SE polar. I cry. That doesn't mean I'm not FI polar, right? It's a matter. You forget that it's an attentional manner. It's a way of paying attention. The fact that he goes and does CrossFit periodically, is he paying attention via SE? Not necessarily. He could be paying attention via SI, just attending to the physical sensation of the exercise himself. He could be attending via FE, feeling good about seeing himself at the gym and making sure people are watching him and not paying attention to the SE. There are ways of paying attention.
Tell my Becky that I have the most amazing person in my life to help me figure out a relationship, and I would not want it.
I don't think your Becky's here at the moment. It's not just because they're ignoring FI and you demonstrate it. It's mostly because they have polar SI. Oh yeah, you said that next, Senjin. Never mind. Senjin beat me to the punch. What is the difference between me saying that person thinks logically and abstractly and that person thinks TINE? I mean, you can think logically and abstractly without using NE. It depends on how you are attending to the thing you're thinking logically and abstractly about. If you're simply trying to determine its status, in other words, you are parsing negation errorly primarily and saying, does this withstand basic muster? And you're simply using it as an evaluatory approach, then that's how it's going to play out. You're not going to get the ideational end of it. But if you're using both the ideational end and the evaluatory approach, then you're not just going to rebut somebody else's thing and point out inconsistencies that are wrong. You're going to provide additional ideation about what that means argumentationally and what we got to draw about it, as I'm doing right now. So that's the difference. I mean, if you're saying a person thinks logically and abstractly, if you're saying they think logically, then they are thinking abstractly. If you're saying they are attending logically to the logic of that system over there, that's not a universal system logic, then they're using TE. But if you're saying they are thinking logically, then they're using a universal system of grammar called language. And they're using it logically means to say they are caring about the delineation of distinct meanings for words and how those distinct meanings ought not contradict each other. So, okay. That SI as a role function is critical for the INFJ. So it's what makes them my friends, and ENFJs make me roll my eyes sometimes, except for Megan Lavoda because I'm too busy staring at those brows. Because INFJs and ENFPs will have conversations in which both parties are engaged in this sort of dual knowing and dual, because 1-8 uses both. 4-5 uses both. 4-5 uses both in a more friendly and self-aware way. And 1-8 uses it more as a master-slave way. But regardless, both ENTPs and INFJs are both double knowing in that fashion. And then, they validate on each other's fifth. So I'm interested in the kind of knowing that's not conscious for me, and he's interested in the kind of ideation that's not conscious for him, which is any, and so it makes that pairing of people work well as like friends or like media partners, or like I've made videos with INFJs before that always do really a little bit better at least, and people like the INFJs, like Amber Bamber and Anthony. I want to do more too. The point is, ENFJs, you shift that thing you shift that SI one slot to back to 7, and all of a sudden you've got somebody who just basically doesn't respect the unique otherness of another person. They reduce everybody else to an instance of their archetype, unless they're particularly healthy and well-grown ENFJs. What time is that shit? I gotta get ready for work. What problem would an FI Dom and a polar FI couple run into? Oh, Sheila. I've got good news for you. You're not a supervisor. ESTP and INFP? Oy, oy, oy. Let me see what the socionic says the endotype is. ESTP and INFP. ESTP, INFJ, I'm going to put relationship, socionics, because they use it backwards, socionics, intertype. Pyow. Let's see. All right. So you've got your ESTP and your INF little j. CNF, conflicting. That sounds promising. Huh, Sheila, conflicting. These are relations of constantly developing conflict. Conflicting relations have the worst compatibility between partners among all other relations. However, it does not seem to be so obvious, especially in the earlier stages of development. Conflicting partners appear rather attractive, interesting, and with impressive abilities. Both partners are usually convinced they can coexist and collaborate quite peacefully, but soon it becomes apparent that something's always going wrong, making their relationship problematic. Both partners may mistakenly think that the cause of these problems is minor and easily fixed, and all they need to do is show a little bit more effort in understanding their partner.
Look at the first line.
What do you mean?
Conflicting pairs, ENTP, ISFJ.
No, those aren't conflicting pairs. This is ISFP.
Where?
Because, look, socionics, the introverts, it's backwards.
Oh.
So that's for ISFP. That's Katie and I, or Capillo and I, are conflicting pair.
Not from what I understand.
Unfortunately,
I heard you fit perfectly.
Unfortunately, these attempts to continue pushing their relationship any further will soon provoke an open conflict between the partners. When conflict starts, partners hit each other with arguments exactly in the direction where they can cause maximum pain. In return, the other partner may counterattack even more aggressively. With every conflict, these relationships become worse and worse. Although conflicting partners show confidence where their partner is unconfident, they are unable to protect and take care of each other's weak points. This regularly brings disagreement and disappointment into these relations. When, after several fruitless attempts to establish a stable relationship, the partners give up and break up the relationship, they feel saved and released. And that's your marriage. Congratulations, Sheila. You are with the conflictor. Maybe you got him typed wrong. You had yourself typed wrong, So it's quite possible you had him typed wrong, too. Sheila Bila. I mean, unless that sounds super much like your relationship. Being an FI Dom doesn't automatically make you a butthurt baby. That's very ESTP of you. This is Ruddy Shrandon. As long as both parties are mature, they'd be fine. Bow, bow, bow. Are you bowing to plan a catch-up? FI polar is most harmful to the self. Ask any ENFP. Exactly. How exactly do the mechanics of any work in your head? Are you consciously ideating or making associations with things involuntary second nature? It's second nature involuntary. It just goes like...
Tell Becky my phone died.
Becky, Kim's phone died is what happened. The thing is, it's, it depends what you're doing, right? So you just asked a question, and so in my head, I'm immediately thinking, my first thought was about storytelling mechanics. And then I realized, but there's another possibility here, which is there's a lot of different ways in which any can be applied. I need to differentiate between the kinds of any. That's any and TI working on your question right there. and then I'm ideating it out loud, so that's extra NE-ishness of it. And so I would say the answer is, if I'm approaching a question like this,
Can I use your phone to text Becky?
then the way I go about it is, first I begin to answer the question, and as I begin to answer it, NE breaks apart my answer I was going to give, and then I start providing different possible channels on that. And really, the skill, you don't need a lighter to use the phone. I gave her my phone, and then I was giving her my lighter because, of course, you have to light your phone on fire, I guess. So, and you can see it there too, as I realized what I was doing and sidetracked away from where I was going to tell that little story there, because my innie jumped on that and thought, oh, that's funny or whatever. I'll explain that. But the point is that what will happen is the mechanics will split into a few different possible vectors to answer the question. And then those will collapse into an NI hole, which will bring it all back together. And I'll say, so this is basically how the mechanics work, is it gives me, I take an answer, I break that answer apart into where it could go wrong. And then I present an alternate frame that includes those new wrongnesses so that it metas up a level as any TI. And then I present that, in fact, okay, well, that question needs to go up a level. We need to say, well, what kinds of applications are there? Any TI kind of works like this, exemplify it. And then my NI is telling me, then you go back and you say, well, there's also the storytelling approach, which is different, which I can go over in a second, but I should make a separate topic. And the FE is the one going, I should make it a separate topic. Or maybe it's the, maybe it's NITE, TE demonstrative. I'm trying to explain something, probably is a better way to put it. So in that regard, the mechanics of things, as they actually play out in the moment, are pretty complicated. But you can figure out the mechanics of, say, storytelling pretty straightforwardly, as I was described in another video recently. Making up a story, taking an SE object in the frame of reference, field of vision, to begin the story, like this thing. I don't even know what this is called, but it's like it's a little metal pick thing, metal stabber. There was once a boy who had a metal stabber he was very fond of. It was a small metal stabber, no longer than his finger. I mean, just slightly longer than his finger. And it was meant to, clean your nails and stuff, but he used it for an unusual purpose. He used it to pry up worms from underneath the earth, because he was a worm salesman. He would go down to where they would fish, and he'd sell worms to the fishermen. So one day, okay, so now I've done what? I've taken this little poker thing, thought about a kid who's using it for some unusual purpose, and I don't know what caused me to go worm digging, except, it's something I do a fair amount with the chickens and stuff, so it's just sort of in my SI. Popped up. The disparateness of the link, therefore, comes from the SI. When I talked about worm digging, though, what's the normal use of worm digging? It's not going to be for your chickens to eat the worms. It's going to be to go fishing. So that's NI kicking in and redirecting the story towards a universalist angle, a universalist link to worm digging. So I just did that right there, and it shows that the way that SE, NE, and SI work together, and how SE provides very little, right? SE provides very little in that equation. It's almost all NE and SI, and a little FE maybe or something, but not really anything else. Okay. So why do I feel like TISE is faster than TISI, especially if you're being concrete? NTP has to translate to representational. It takes more time to move in to long-term memory. I agree that it is faster. You've got ESTPs and ISPs using TI to make decisions and then acting on those decisions. So the reason it's faster is because any TI it does come to firm conclusions, but it's much more likely to dither and say, okay, well, this is the conclusion right now. Let's explore all the possible ways this conclusion could be wrong. If you're an ESTP and you're out there slaying the puss, and this girl's giving you body language that's consistent with what you understand, the circumstances, all the details of the circumstances, this guy being mad, that guy being whatever, this girl over here being giggly, and that girl giving you some sort of body language that says, she's ready to act out to punish this other guy who she's sort of seeing, but he's acting like a douche, and you're going to jump on that shit, right? And any user will sit there and go, but she could have meant this, or she could have meant that, or she could have meant the other thing, or gosh, I mean, why would she like me anyway? And maybe I should get up the courage to go talk to her. By the time you do, some ESTP has gotten her by the hand and walked her into the bathroom, bent her over. So you know that that's that thing that I just said. Whatever. Okay. TISE is ISTP is slow as fuck due to any poor. It's only slow when it requires it to ideate. It's only slow when you ask an ISTP question. If you're giving the claims and they're doing the parsing, it's super fast. If you're explaining shit, they'll understand it right away. It's just that if you ask them a question and put them on the spot, then they are deers in headlights. So are you saying cognitive functions don't cause people to do things? Cognitive functions do not cause people to do things, okay? A cognitive function refers to an expression of attention that itself expresses as a manifestation of their being in and across time. It does not cause you to do things. You are your cognitive functions. You don't possess them. They are not parasites that live on the back of your neck and shoot electrical impulses in your brain and tell you what to do. They do provide other people some sort of guide regarding the behavior of a person. So if I know your configural stack, I can make predictions about how you're going to respond to things, and some of those predictions will be extremely accurate. And that's pretty compelling, you know. If I've made a good solid guess that you are an ENTJ and want to play a fun trick, I can then go in front of other people, go, hey, watch what you can't do. And if I've had enough time to make a good assessment and going in, chances are 90+% chance that it's gonna bear out, you know. So that's pretty compelling. There's a correlation to displays, but as per the INTP, if you were to hear self-reporting about those displays, then you're not going to get them right. You got to remember also that self-reporting is subject to a couple of different problems. Number one, there's the fish in the air problem. If I'm a fish and I'm swimming all the time, I'm assuming everybody else is a fish too. And let's say I'm a fish who, amongst fish, jumps out into the air a lot to catch bugs to eat. Well, then if you are asking a question towards me, are you a person who spends a lot of time in the air? Then the fish who jumps in the air a lot is going to go like, yeah, of course I am. Compared to my other fish around me, I seem to be a big air lover. But the problem is the fish person is not understanding that the test is being asked of creatures who live in the water, the land, and in the air. So the answer is no. You spend almost no time in the air compared to birds or compared to land mammals even. But you spend a lot of time in the air compared to fish. You're going to answer that, yeah, I'm an air creature. Because that's what seems like to you if you're assuming everybody's a fish. The other factor is the highlight factor. So if you are a fish and you jump into the air periodically, you're going to remember those jumps into the air a lot more than you are your average swimming around time because they're dramatic and memorable. And so when asked about something like how important is being in the air to you or something, you're going to say, oh, well, I mean, that's a big thing for me. It's a big highlight for me, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't mean you're an air breather, and it doesn't mean you're a bird. So those two factors come into play when you're talking about any kind of display functionality. Any display of functionality, then you're not really talking about an intentional manner. You're talking about trying to interpret how that person, based on the fact that they're locked in their own box, is going to interpret their behavior from outside that box, which is always a tricky question. Okay. Any tool makes you check every possibility. That takes time. SC makes them more, I don't know, reckless. That's what said like an NE user there, Gaelic Belgay. Said like an NE user. They would probably say opportunistic or decisive or putting a handle on shit. Haha, Eric, look at me engaging the live stream like it is my live stream. It's yours today, Becky. Or that the things people do.
She is multitasking too. She's got me on one hand and you over there.
The things that people do in cognitive functions can only be merely correlated, and even people doing things that seem taboo from what their type does, it can still be explained through cognitive functions. Well, the point is people do more than do stuff, right? Most attention is not doing. For example, you're not doing anything right now. You're acting on an external metaphysical field. They just say you're placing data out for us to consume and get. You're putting, okay? So is that doing something? Well, sure. Is it expressing yourself? Sure. Is it engaging with the topic through one manner of attention and not another? Yes. You'll note that some days you don't come in here and go, can we talk about how strongly I'm feeling right now? That instead, all of the time you come in here with this nonsense about IQ. Why is that so consistent, I wonder? Is it maybe a function of your attentional channel? Maybe. Does that mean Mad Biscuit? Does that mean it's caused by it? No. Yes, humans are an open system. Knowing this, you could choose to come in next time and talk about your moisture.
Oh,
would that disprove your type? No, it would prove your type further, because again, you're using an intentional manner in which you're trying to focus on consistency, for example, to prove me wrong about something. So that's just more consistency. Can you escape who you are? No. Does that mean that your life is determinate or is predetermined, that you're subject to determinism? No, it doesn't. And is that going to blow your mind because it means that words aren't absolutely capable of containing all the complex realities of life? Hopefully not. Hopefully our minds can recover for that. Not that difficult concept. Okay. Thanks, Sredi Chandran. Sredi Chandran's a great name. I love Sredi Chandran. I got a 1:30 class. I got to go. I don't really need to take a bath or shower, though. Well, that bent her over in the bathroom story is tragic. The tear in the corner of my eye. It is tragic, right? Because, girls need you to be decisive and manly and know what you want, But then if you are that way, then you're not an intuitive.
What are you talking about?
I can't go back and explain. Doesn't the arrangement of functions in the stack cause an individual to act out in ways correlative to those functions? I mean, it doesn't cause it, right? It's true that a person is an expression of a configuration of attentional channels, and that they typically will express in ways that are consistent. They always will express in ways that are consistent with that configuration. But that doesn't mean we can necessarily predict 100% anything except for things like a skills deficit. If a person literally cannot do SI, remembering of details from stories from the past, immediate past, short-term past, or whatever, if they literally can't do that, then that's something you can reliably test. It's not subject to the open system quality. The problem with being an open system ideational machine or experiential machine or information metabolizing machine, or whatever you want to call it, is that we can metabolize information about the grammar of the system being used to understand us, so we can make adjustments accordingly. That's what it means to game the system, right? You can't game a deficit test. If I am blind, I cannot fake reading the letters off of the chart. And so that's the aspect of functions that allows us to draw, like strong one-to-one correlations. You could choose to call causal, but that would be misunderstanding the nature of the thing you're talking about. You're not talking about something that acts upon the self. You're talking about the way a self attends in reality. And that's going to have to wrap it up.
That wraps it up, my friends.
I got to go to work.
Eric needs to brush his teeth, put deodorant on, and put socks on.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry for those of you who came late that you didn't get to enjoy the golden bricks flying from my mouth for as long as you might otherwise have. But you can capture them again on live stream replay. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.